Lily Evans never imagined her 32nd birthday would end with an eviction notice. That morning, she woke early, gently decorating her cozy apartment in Westbrook, Ohio. It wasn't extravagant, just silver and blue streamers, a vanilla cake from her favorite childhood bakery, and the soft blue dress her late mother Grace had gifted her during senior year. She wore it with hope. This year, maybe things would be different. Maybe she'd be remembered. Her phone stayed silent. No calls from her father, Daniel Evans, or her siblings, Ethan and Mia. Still early, she told herself. Maybe they were just caught up with their day. She poured a glass of her mom's old punch recipe, letting the sunlight wash over the kitchen, and embraced a rare moment of peace. Then came a knock at the door. Hope surged. A surprise visit. She rushed to open it, smile blooming wide for the first time in weeks. But the man standing there didn't carry flowers or gifts. Her father Daniel stood in a business suit, face set in stone. "Hi, Lily," he said with a nod, eyes skipping past the birthday decorations. "We need to talk." She stepped aside, her voice light, still hopeful. "Cake, Dad. I just picked it up. It's from..." He shook his head and placed a white envelope on the counter right beside the unlit birthday cake. "This is formal notice," he said evenly. "You have 30 days to vacate the apartment." It hit like a slap. Lily froze, unable to process. "What, Dad? This is my apartment." He cleared his throat, avoiding her eyes. "Technically, it's still part of the family trust. Cheryl and I decided Ethan will need it when he moves back after graduation." Cheryl, his girlfriend, the one who'd embedded herself into every decision since showing up. "You're evicting me on my birthday?" Lily's voice cracked. He finally looked at her, but no regret. "The timing's unfortunate, but business is business. You've got a good job now. You'll land on your feet." With that, he turned and walked out without so much as a happy birthday. Lily stood alone, tangled in party ribbons, the room mocking her in festive colors. She stared at the untouched cake candles still waiting. What Daniel didn't know, what he never cared to ask, was that 6 months earlier, when his business had nearly collapsed, it was Lily who had quietly stepped in. She had taken over the mortgage on the family home, used her life savings to save it from foreclosure, and had been paying it ever since. He could have lost everything. And now, on the very day she was born, he'd cast aside the very person who had kept his life from falling apart. After the shock of her birthday, Lily sat alone in her slowly emptying apartment, surrounded by deflated balloons and an untouched cake. It wasn't just about the eviction notice, it was about being pushed out of a story she had helped hold together. But the truth was, Lily hadn't been part of the family for a long time. The paper just made it official. Memories flooded in. She thought of the day her mother, Grace Evans, had called her into the bedroom. Lily was only 16. Her mother, frail and pale, lay propped against pillows, her voice barely a whisper. "Lily," she said, squeezing her daughter's hand, "I need you to take care of them. Your father doesn't know how to show emotion, but he'll need you. And Ethan and Mia. They'll need their big sister." Lily nodded through tears, not understanding the full weight of that promise. After her mother's death, their once warm and noisy home turned silent. Her father, Daniel, withdrew into his accounting firm. He wasn't cruel, just absent, emotionally checked out. Lily became the glue. She woke early to cook breakfast, helped Ethan with his math, braided Mia's hair, made dinner, kept the house running, all while still a teenager. While her classmates were worrying about prom or SATs, Lily was calculating grocery budgets and carpool schedules. She had dreams too, college, a career in finance. Her parents had even started a small education fund. When she turned 21, she applied to take night classes, working as a receptionist in her dad's firm by day and waiting tables at night. She had even begun tucking away tips and bonuses into savings. Then she checked the college fund account. It was empty. Her father had withdrawn it months earlier. When confronted, he barely blinked. I needed capital to expand the firm, he said. You work there already. That's your future. She didn't argue, just nodded and went back to saving from scratch. Through it all, Lily remained the family's quiet foundation. She helped Ethan with college applications, drove Mia to dance recitals, maintained her mother's garden, and preserved her mother's recipes. Her dating life faltered. Few men understood why she always prioritized family. But Lily never complained. She told herself her father appreciated her, that her siblings knew, that the house where her mother once baked cookies and laughed during holidays was still home. Still sacred. But now it was clear. Everything she had sacrificed, everything she had held together, it had gone unnoticed. Or worse, had been taken for granted. And the one place she thought she could always return to was now being taken away too. Change didn't come all at once. It crept in quietly, subtly, and dangerously. Cheryl Dawson entered Daniel Evans' life one summer evening, initially hired as a commercial real estate agent to help scout locations for a new branch of his accounting firm. The branch never materialized, but Cheryl stayed. Within months, she had moved into the Evans family home as if it were a given. No one asked Lily. In fact, she found out through a casual text from her younger sister Cheryl moved in. Dad says it's nice not being alone anymore. Lily didn't protest. She wasn't one for drama. But from the moment Cheryl crossed the threshold, everything began to shift slowly, but unmistakably. Family photos vanished from the hallway, replaced by abstract art. The warm yellow walls were painted in muted grays. Her mother's vibrant garden was ripped out in favor of low-maintenance landscaping. Cheryl was polite but distant. To Ethan and Mia, she was warm, even maternal, like she was auditioning for the role of the good stepmom on a made-for-TV movie. But with Lily, it was always a subtle undercurrent of dismissal, a quiet evaluation behind every smile. Comments laced with feigned sweetness. Your job must keep you so busy, must be hard to maintain work-life balance. Or, independent women often find long-term relationships. Tricky, don't they? Lily said nothing. She had mastered silence years ago. But deep down, she felt it. She was being edged out. Then came the Florida photos. Scrolling through Mia's Instagram, Lily froze. There they were, her entire family laughing in the sun arms around each other on a beach. Dad, Cheryl, Ethan, Mia. A week-long family vacation. Without her. No invitation, no heads up, nothing. She called her father, voice steady but sharp. I saw the photos. You didn't think I'd want to know. He hesitated. We thought you'd be busy. Cheryl found a last-minute deal. It all happened so fast. Lily didn't respond. The silence spoke louder than any accusation. The exclusion wasn't subtle anymore. It was intentional. Cheryl didn't want her there, and Daniel didn't stop it. Still, Lily clung to the idea of family like a prayer. She continued to show up for holidays, brought cookies from her mother's recipes, asked about school, sat politely at dinners, but they didn't really see her anymore. She wasn't in the photos. Her opinions weren't sought. Important decisions about money, about the house, were made without her knowledge. Cheryl hadn't just inserted herself into Daniel's life. She was slowly replacing Grace Evans' presence with a sanitized, curated version of Family One where Lily didn't quite fit. And Lily, the daughter who preserved the garden, the memories, the glue that held the pieces, was being quietly erased. Despite being excluded from dinners, ignored during family vacations, and met with Cheryl's rehearsed smiles, Lily never stopped checking in on the old house. The home she grew up in still called to her. She found excuses to stop by, dropping off muffins for Mia, pulling weeds in the backyard, or simply standing for a moment in the kitchen where her mom once taught her how to make apple pie. One fall evening, over catered Italian food that had long replaced home-cooked meals, Daniel casually mentioned business has been a little slow lately. It was an offhand remark, but Lily's instincts, sharpened by years of caretaking, immediately flared. A few days later, she quietly pulled financial records through contacts she still had in accounting. The truth was worse than she'd imagined. Daniel's firm was bleeding clients to younger tech-savvy competitors. Worse yet, the family home's mortgage on the house he now shared with Cheryl was 3 months overdue. She confronted her father gently. "Why didn't you come to me sooner? I could have helped analyze the financials." Daniel bristled. "I don't need my daughter teaching me how to run a business I built before she was born." His pride, always his Achilles heel, shut the door on any help. Undeterred, Lily investigated further. She called Liberty First Bank the mortgage holder. After rounds of verification, a representative named Brenda Hayes broke the news. The loan wasn't 3 months behind, it was 7. Foreclosure proceedings were scheduled to begin in less than 2 weeks. Lily barely slept that night. She kept seeing strangers tearing up her mother's garden, repainting over the pencil marks that tracked her and her siblings' growth. She couldn't let that happen. The next morning, Lily called the bank again. Her voice was clear and calm. "If the current borrower can't refinance, I want to assume the mortgage under my name." Brenda paused, but after reviewing Lily's strong credit score, salary, and financial track record, agreed to move forward. What followed were 2 intense weeks of paperwork, credit checks, and confidential meetings. Lily worked during the day and signed documents at night. She emptied the savings she had planned to use for her own home. Every dollar went into rescuing the Evans house. She never told Daniel. Instead, she created a fictional story about a special bank program for struggling businesses that offered restructured payment plans. Daniel accepted the explanation with surprising ease, perhaps because he wanted to. Meanwhile, Lily, now legally responsible for the mortgage, became the silent guardian of the home her mother once made sacred. 2 months after quietly assuming the mortgage to save the family home, Lily stopped by on a Sunday afternoon. She had planned to drop off some muffins for Mia, but what she saw through the kitchen window made her freeze. A group of construction workers was tearing out the cabinets. Not renovating, demolishing. Lily stepped inside, her heart pounding. "What's going on?" she asked, voice steady but sharp. Her father Daniel turned to her, beaming. "Cheryl found an amazing contractor. We're modernizing the whole first floor. Just wait till you see the new plans, it's going to be incredible." "No one told me," Lily said flatly. No heads up, nothing. Cheryl appeared from the backyard, sunglasses perched on her head, holding a glass of juice. "Lily." "What a surprise," she said coolly. "Don't worry, we kept your mom's china cabinet." "But the rest?" Honestly, it was all so outdated. Lily didn't answer. She just stood in the middle of the kitchen, once filled with warmth and memories, now stripped bare. This was where her mother taught her how to bake, where pencil marks still recorded childhood growth spurts. Now it was just dust and broken tile. That night, Lily called Alex Tran, a longtime friend and trusted attorney. After she explained everything, Alex asked, "Is your name on the deed?" "No," Lily admitted. "Just on the mortgage." He exhaled. "Legally, your dad still owns the house, but you own the debt tied to it. If he defaults, say, by not repaying you, you could foreclose. But otherwise, he can make changes as he pleases." The call was a wake-up call. In her eagerness to protect the house, Lily had assumed all responsibility, but none of the power. The next day, she took a deeper look into Daniel's finances, and what she found was worse. His business was failing. He'd been using personal credit cards to keep it afloat. Even more troubling, Cheryl, leveraging her real estate connections, had already contacted agents about listing the home. The very home Lily was paying for. No one had told her. No one had asked. No one thought she needed to know, even though her money was keeping it all standing. Adding insult to injury, Cheryl was now redesigning the house to her taste, systematically removing every trace of Grace Evans. Family photos were boxed away. Heirlooms vanished. Sunday dinners turned into catered meals with no soul. Cheryl didn't just want to live in the house. She wanted to erase its history and replace it with her own version of family. And Daniel, he let it happen. Lily, the one who had saved the house from foreclosure, was now being treated as a footnote, as if she had never belonged there in the first place. That night, Lily didn't cry. There was no more shock, no more fury. She sat in her small home office, laying out every document she had mortgage papers with her name on them. Payment records, the legal transfer forms. Each page was proof that she wasn't just the invisible daughter. She was the person who saved the family home. For years, Lily believed sacrifice was her duty, that if she was quiet and kind long enough, one day they'd see her. That day never came. But now things were different. She held power, and for the first time, she was ready to use it. She didn't act out of anger. Instead, she called Jasmine, her best friend from college, and shared everything. Jasmine listened in silence, then said one sentence. "Just make sure your next move comes from self-respect, not revenge." Lily knew she was right. This wasn't about exploding. It was about resetting the balance. The next morning, Lily booked a consultation with a real estate attorney and began researching her legal standing as the mortgage holder. The verdict was clear: no one could sell the house without her consent unless they paid off the mortgage in full or got her approval. Given her father's current finances, that wasn't happening. That night, browsing real estate listings, Lily froze. The family home was already listed for sale. Agent Cheryl Dawson. The description read like a developer's dream. No mention of debt. No sign it had ever been a home filled with memories. She wasn't angry. She was certain. Denial had gone on long enough. She began preparing. Not for a confrontation, but for a declaration. She scheduled Sunday family dinner and arrived precisely on time. Dressed in a sleek black pantsuit, portfolio in hand, she looked like someone you didn't dismiss. Cheryl and Daniel greeted her like a guest, overstaying her welcome. The atmosphere was stiff, the conversation forced. No one mentioned the eviction or the house until dessert. Daniel finally cleared his throat. "So have you started apartment hunting? Cheryl might have some contacts that could help." Lily smiled gently. "Actually, before we talk housing, I think we should clarify some things about the house." The room fell silent. Cheryl's smile twitched. "We already have several interested buyers. It's a hot market. We're expecting a fast close." "Of course," Lily replied, reaching into her bag. "But there's a small issue. The mortgage on that house is in my name. Any sale would need my written approval." She placed the documents on the table. Daniel paled. Cheryl lunged for them, flipping through quickly. Her eyes widened. "Is this real?" "Very real," Lily said calmly. "I used my entire savings to bring the loan current and prevent foreclosure. I didn't do it to hold it over anyone. But I'm not going to watch you erase Mom's memory and treat me like I was never here." She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She didn't beg for space in their world. She took it. And for the first time, they had no choice but to listen. After Lily walked out that evening, she didn't look back. She didn't need to. The stunned expressions, the flustered stammering, Daniel's pale silence, Cheryl's flared temper, it all spoke volumes. For the first time, Lily wasn't sidelined. She wasn't the overreacting daughter. She had forced them to acknowledge a truth they couldn't ignore. Back in her small apartment, she opened a cheap bottle of wine and sat alone, not to celebrate, but to breathe. For years, she had moved like a shadow through their lives, hoping her sacrifices would eventually be seen. She wasn't waiting anymore. Within hours, her phone lit up. First Mia, then Ethan, then Daniel, multiple missed calls. She didn't answer. She needed space to stand in this new feeling, being seen. The next morning, she sent a single text. "I'm available to meet at 7 p.m. at my apartment. If you're ready for an honest conversation, come." At exactly 7:00, all four of them, her father, Cheryl, Ethan, and Mia, stood at her door. No flowers, no gifts. But for the first time, they came needing her, not the other way around. Her living room was tidy chairs, arranged a pot of tea still steaming. She welcomed them with a polite smile. Not cold, but no longer soft. Silence thickened the room. Finally, Daniel broke it. "You owe us an explanation." Lily looked him in the eyes. "No. You owe me one, and maybe Ethan and Mia do too. I saved that house. I've been making the mortgage payments every month. And you tried to sell it behind my back and evicted me from the apartment I lived in on my birthday." Cheryl opened her mouth, but Lily held up a hand. "I'm speaking. You'll have your turn." For the first time, she didn't shrink back. And to her surprise, they listened. Ethan spoke first. "You did all that, and we had no idea. I don't even know what to say." Mia nodded, her eyes damp. "I'm sorry, Lily. I didn't mean to overlook you, but I did. We all did." Daniel remained silent longer. His eyes stayed on Lily like he was seeing her, truly seeing her for the first time. "I didn't realize," he said quietly, "how much you've carried. How much you still are." The conversation stretched over 2 hours. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. For the first time in years, no one deflected. Lily didn't have to bury her anger. Daniel didn't retreat behind business talk. Cheryl said little, and to Lily that was enough. As they prepared to leave, Ethan and Mia lingered behind. "If you want," Ethan said, "I'd like to help protect the house. You shouldn't do it alone." Mia simply took Lily's hand. "I don't want to live in a family that doesn't include you anymore." Lily didn't make promises, but in her heart something shifted. A door opened, not for instant forgiveness, but for something more powerful. A real chance to begin again. After the emotional family meeting, Lily knew that real change wouldn't come from one night of apologies. Remorse was a start, but not a solution. Families weren't fixed by feelings. They required boundaries. And for the first time, Lily decided she would be the one to define them. She was no longer the quietly sacrificing daughter, no longer seeking approval. She was the person paying the mortgage, the one holding the leverage, and most importantly, the only one willing to face the truth and act on it. 3 days later, she sent a notarized letter to her father, Daniel Evans. It formally requested a property inspection of the family home tied to the mortgage under her name. She cited provisions in the loan agreement requiring upkeep of the asset. The letter also clarified any attempt to sell the house would require a 60-day written notice, not the arbitrary 30-day ultimatum Daniel had previously given her. The letter reached him the next morning. By that evening, he was at her door. Gone was the confident business suit. Tonight he stood there in a rumpled jacket, eyes somewhere between pride and fatigue. 60 days, property inspection. "Lily, what kind of game are you playing?" She opened the door calmly. "It's not a game, Dad. It's business." "Isn't that what you told me?" That stopped him. He stepped into her tidy living room, where the same folder from their last meeting sat waiting. She invited him to sit, poured tea, then took the seat across from him, not as a daughter pleading for grace, but as a stakeholder negotiating terms. "I didn't think you'd take it this far," Daniel admitted. "I didn't think you'd evict me on my birthday," Lily replied softly but firmly. Sometimes truth doesn't need to be loud, it just needs to be undeniable. Daniel looked at her for a long moment, and for once his expression wasn't dismissive or condescending. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want boundaries," Lily said. "I won't be excluded from major family decisions anymore. I want to be heard as an adult, as a contributor, as someone who matters in this family." "And the house?" "No sale for now. We take 6 months to explore every option, including the possibility of me buying out your equity. Until then, no legal or structural changes to the property unless I approve them." Daniel nodded slowly, not in defeat, but in understanding. When he left, Lily didn't feel victorious. She didn't feel bitter. She felt grounded. For the first time, she wasn't waiting to be accepted. She had claimed her place, and that place was at the center. Life didn't change overnight for Lily after the family meetings. She didn't post online, throw a party, or share cryptic status updates. But quietly, something deep inside her shifted, something permanent. She was no longer the girl staying in the upstairs apartment. In legal records, in her father's mind, and in the eyes of her siblings, Lily now held the key to the family's foundation. She began reorganizing every financial document tied to the house. With the help of a real estate advisor, she reassessed the property's value, reviewed all mortgage transactions, and even hired an independent auditor to ensure clarity on debts and ownership rights. None of it was performative. It was a declaration without needing to say it out loud. I'm no longer asking to be respected. I act like someone who belongs because I do. Daniel, her father, seemed to recognize this shift too. In their following meetings, his tone changed. He asked her opinion before making decisions. No more lectures, no more assumptions. When Cheryl once suggested remodeling the kitchen, Daniel simply replied, "Let's check with Lily first." One sentence. But to Lily, it was a landmark. Not because he gave her permission to speak, but because he had finally acknowledged that her voice mattered. Ethan and Mia, once passive observers in the family drama, now stepped forward more actively. Ethan offered to help her sort through banking logistics, while Mia volunteered to help redesign the space if the family chose to keep the house. Every gesture was a small stone in rebuilding a bridge, not just to Lily, but to what family ought to mean. And for the first time, Lily no longer felt like an outsider. She no longer believed she had to sacrifice silently to be loved, or remain quiet to keep peace. She realized love wasn't something to be earned through submission. Love at its most honest comes when you stand tall. And the house, once a symbol of forgotten memories and wounds, was now a symbol of ownership, healing, and a Lily who no longer lived to please others. She lived to honor herself. The last month of the year passed in a quiet Lily hadn't known in years. The old house, once a battleground of resentment and silence, now wore a gentler presence. The kitchen that had echoed with arguments now held light conversations. Her mother's photo, once hidden in a dusty box, was placed back in the living room, reclaiming its rightful space as the soul of the home. Lily never expected a fairy tale ending, but she understood something deeper now. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the end of surviving and the beginning of living. When the bank's lawyer mailed the final papers confirming her ownership, Lily held the document in her hands for a long time. Not because she needed proof, but because she needed a moment to admit to herself. She had done what even she once doubted was possible. She hadn't just reclaimed the house. She had reclaimed herself. That night she hosted a quiet dinner. Nothing extravagant. A few homemade dishes, candles in reused glass jars, and a white tablecloth she'd saved for someday. Daniel arrived on time holding a bottle of wine. Ethan helped set the table. Mia brought dessert she'd baked. Even Cheryl came quieter than usual, but without her usual edge. Instead, a soft smile. Maybe even sincere. Lily wasn't clinging to the past, but she was keeping the pieces worth healing. When everyone sat down, she spoke only one sentence. "Thank you all for coming. Tonight isn't about celebrating a victory. It's about having dinner as a real family." No one said anything right away, but the silence wasn't awkward. It was acceptance. Daniel raised his glass to Lily. In his eyes, there was the quiet surrender of a man who once tried to control everything, now learning that real strength lies in letting go. Ethan talked about his startup plans. Mia shared her grad school applications. Cheryl asked Lily what other changes she'd like to make to the house. Every word, every glance, every small gesture confirmed one thing. Lily was no longer invisible. She was the center and no one denied it. After dinner, as she stood alone at the sink washing dishes, Lily smiled softly. Not because everything was perfect, but because for the first time after a family gathering, she didn't feel empty. She had forgiven not because they earned it, but because she refused to carry the weight of old wounds into her future. Justice for Lily wasn't about revenge. It was being able to stand tall, walk forward, and know she never abandoned herself. Family, she now knew, wasn't a place you're obligated to stay. It's a place you choose because it finally feels safe. And rebirth? It wasn't loud. It didn't ask for applause. It simply needed a heart strong enough not to shatter and quiet enough to open again.